Chapter 1: The Colonies. In the 1700s, our country was not called the United States. Instead of states, America was divided into 13 colonies. A colony is land that is owned by another country. Britain controlled the American colonies. Its king, George III, and the British government ruled them. People often sailed from Europe and Britain to begin new lives in the colonies. Some came for freedom to worship as they pleased. Others came for land. Still, others came for work. People who lived in colonies are called colonists. The trip was long and dangerous. It could take 2 months or more. Storms often pounded the small ships. Sometimes there wasn't enough food on board. Many people became sick and died. The colonists. In the 1700s, there were almost 2 million people in the colonies. Many families came from Britain. They did not think of themselves as Americans. They thought of themselves as British. Their loyalty was to the king. Rich colonists often sent their sons to school in England. Other colonists came from Germany, France, Holland, Sweden, and Finland. Many of them came to farm the fertile land in the middle colonies. They didn't think of themselves as Americans either. They called themselves New Yorkers, Virginians, or other names based on their colonies. The colonies also had slaves who were brought over from West Africa. Most slaves lived on large farms called plantations in the southern colonies. They worked in the fields or as house servants. There were also American Indians in the colonies. They were there long before the colonists arrived. Many lost their lands as the colonies grew larger. The colonies prosper. By 1750, the colonies were prospering. America was rich in natural resources. Prosper means to be successful. Vast forests covered the land. There was wood for building and heating houses. There was plenty of wildlife and fish for food and furs. Much of the soil was good for growing crops. Natural resources are useful things that are found in nature. Natural resources that were common, such as wood, good soil, wildlife, and fish. Many colonists made money by selling their products to England. They sold rice, furs, tobacco, wheat, and other things they grew or produced. The colonists also bought many products from England. Jack and Annie's Guide to the 13 Colonies. All the colonies but Pennsylvania were on the Atlantic coast. The soil was poor in New England. Some people were farmers, but many New England colonists became shipbuilders, fishermen, or merchants. In the middle colonies, the land was rich and fertile. Farmers grew grain that fed most of the other colonies. These colonies were known as the bread colonies. Tobacco was the biggest crop in the southern colonies. Rice was also a popular crop. Many large plantations in South Carolina grew it in the wet lowlands. Here you see a map of the 13 colonies along the eastern coast in the Atlantic Ocean, from the port of Massachusetts all the way down to Georgia. You can see the northern ones are the New England colonies, the middle ones are the middle colonies, and believe it or not, but the southern ones are the southern colonies.